All right, we talked a little bit about how God orders life. He starts with God and self. That determines identity, that determines how you live out your gender, that determines how you live out who you are. Then it blows up into family, that blows up into home, and then ultimately into the household of God, the church, the people of God. Okay? And you want to take a look with your mentor on, do you have a plan for self-growth? Do you actively pursue discipleship and leading others to be discipled? Understand the roles of the Trinity, and as an individual, you can articulate Trinitarian roles, and you're starting to try to think on those things. I think it's important that you know what they are so that you can start to go, okay, if the Father is like this, and the Son is like this, and the Spirit's like this, well, Jesus, the Father is like Christ, the head, and what does that mean? And the Spirit is like called alongside, like the woman. She's called alongside. So what does that mean? If we start to think about the Trinity, we start to put into line how we live out our own gender, how we live out our own identity. And we don't just get to make up whatever we want. There's ways that will bring about the best human life possible, the best human flourishing. And if we try to make it up, it's not going to happen. And ask yourself, do you put on the full armor of God and understand spiritual warfare and its attack on those things? Okay? Family fulfills the requirements of 1 Timothy 3 and in the home. I think we should look at 1 Timothy qualifications of men, of people leading the church, have their household in order, are not given over to drunkenness, have a good rapport in the community, are above reproach, handles finances well. All these things that are given for us in 1 Timothy 3, yes, there are people who are raised into the position to be overseers in the church where these are required, but these are stipulations for all people. All Christians are supposed to have control over drunkenness, over temper, over money, above reproach. And we need to ask ourselves, are we in that place? Because we're a person of Christ. We're a person of character. Live responsibly, taking care of my family, the widow, the orphan, and honors our father and our mother. Okay, if you've got discord in your family, we need to deal with that. Okay? If there's times of healing that need to take place, I actively walk through this a lot with my family because I just come from a very disconnected, discombobulated kind of family. And so I'm just constantly wrestling with, am I walking in a position of honor? And my honest answer most of the time is no. If you were to assess me, I would write down, this is where I'm really growing. And then that affects how I relate in my own home. I need to maintain a correct understanding of headship and submission in relationship to my wife and hers to mine. Am I viewing relationships as complementary? How we define that in the book is we are equal in value, dignity, and worth, but yet there's a distinction between male and female that is absolutely beautiful. And if we ignore it, we are ridiculous. We need to see that we are equal in value, dignity, and worth, but we are very different, and that is actually a good thing. It's an amazing thing because there's so many things women do that I'm blown away at, and they teach me. There's so many things I know I do that my wife's benefited from as well. Maybe the only woman on the planet that's benefited from me. I don't know. She probably wouldn't even say that. And describe how the Trinity is organized and how to pattern the home. We need to pattern it after the life of the Trinity. And then lastly, the church. You read in the book, the baggage you bring from family, you're going to largely project that onto the church, walking maybe in competitive cowardice, like I talked about in the book. Are you able to identify where maybe some of those unhealthy issues are? And then as you step forward in serving, are you looking for Trinitarian shape to how you're building ministry? I am absolutely convinced that, we look in the scripture and we see a plural God, a plural one God. So he serves in three and yet he's one. So that's got to press it down into human leaders, which is prophet, priest, king. I see a plural one in how the Old Testament functions. I see a plural one in how the New Testament functions. Jesus is prophet, priest, and king, three offices, one dude. Then I see a plurality, oneness in how the church is run, elder, deacon, deaconess. I see a plurality of eldership in how the kingdom is run. There's plural elders surrounding the seat of Jesus in the kingdom. So if it's plural there, it's got to, praying as it becomes like on earth as it is in heaven, I need to pray for plural. Okay, so a lot of churches have started to buy it. I've gotten a hold of this, that the senior model is not biblical. It's really nowhere in Scripture healthily, and plurality is everywhere. So we definitely need to consider what is everywhere more so than what is nowhere in Scripture. And then they're starting to think about this, but as I watch, it's churches as entities thinking about this more as the corporate structure. We need leaders. But then when I see it pressed down into like the homes, I see, oh, yeah, we just have one group leader. Why isn't it that we have a leader watching over the precept, the prophetly type part of the group? Upholding precepts, making sure that group's going forth in truth. The kingly, making sure it's going forth in procedure. And the people, making sure the people are getting cared for. Why isn't there different roles, different responsibilities, different requirements for different people that you're serving with? And I believe if you're going to step out, and I hear a lot of people say, my ministry, it's not your ministry. It's the body's ministry. That's going back to 1 Corinthians thinking that's just out of control. It's not individual, it's we. And so if you're thinking about organizing and doing life like God does, ordering life, ordering the family, ordering the home, you need to think about what kind of help are you going to get? As you build your church, as you build your home, who's going to help round out? I actively have my wife take care and pay attention to priestly things that I naturally ignore. I actively watch over kingly things because I know that's a burden for her. And then together we're very almost kind of prophetly geared, just differently. She's more precepts in how to encourage people. I'm more precepts in how to train people. And because of that, we have a great balance. But finding that in your marriage, and my wife and I, in the ministry that I'm doing with others and with my kids, when I've done church plants, I've sat down and I've set goals this way. How am I strategically raising up different people of different flavors so that they are all growing together as a team? And you can list ideas of how to make, if you're doing this as a church, if you're doing this as a ministry leader, if you're going through this as a worship leader, if you're going through this as a pastor, if you're going through this as a business owner or an administrator, because you saw the word organization on there. If you're going through the class, you should be sitting down and actively asking yourself, if God is a Trinity, he pressed it down in prophet, priest, king, a Trinity, into Jesus, who is prophet, priest, king, and a triune one, into elders and deacons, who is a Trinity, into a plural revelation where there's plurality of leaders, then we need to think about how we put plurality into the home, into the leading of the church at every level. Okay? It can't just be plural over the entity and then single leaders in the home. No, it needs to be, it takes a community to raise a community, and we're all in this together. Okay? So let me know if you have any problems with that as you're looking through that. Some of those are going to be specifically targeted towards if you're thinking through an actual ministry maybe you're in charge of or you're accountable to. But I think all of this has absolute implications for your home. Even if you're a servant among servants and all you do is, and you're just a homemaker and you don't see yourself as a leader, I would challenge you. I would say you're an absolute influencer, overseer of your home to make sure your children, your family grow up knowing the necessity of the whole body and how God orders life. Now let's move into Scripture, how God believes and how he expects us to learn.